I'm specifically speaking about fake sea moss. I'm always giving people information and pointing them in the right direction on what to research. There's no such thing as fake sea moss. So when you say pool-grown sea moss, I'm always asking people, okay, where does this take place? Have you ever seen visual evidence of sea moss growing in a pool? Can you tell me a city, a state, a country, a company? Who produces this? Where? No one can provide that information because it does not exist. I always tell people you have to look these things up for yourself because we keep hearing this and people are recycling what they hear, but nobody's actually looking into this stuff. So fake sea moss suggests that it's not real. How can sea moss not be real? And if it's not real, what is it actually made of? So, okay, it's grown in a pool. Like I said, where? People say the sea moss isn't supposed to have salt on it. Well, sea moss comes from salt water. So why wouldn't it have salt on it? The gold sea moss doesn't have salt because of the way it's cleaned, the way it's processed once it's taken out of the water and dried out. There's different species of sea moss. There's Yucca macatani, there's Chondrus crispus, there's Gracilaria. They all have different characteristics. There's tons of different species of sea moss. So when somebody sees something that looks different and they're not used to it, they say, oh, that's fake. They see one sea moss for the gold sea moss, for instance, might have no salt. And they'll say, well, the other one that has the salt on it, it's fake. It's made in a pool. That's not the case. That sea moss that people will say typically looks like gummy worms, that sea moss just hasn't been dried out properly. And during that drying process, the salt gets removed. They just package this stuff and ship it out. It's not fully dry. It's the same sea moss. It's just handled differently. It's just processed differently. So I can go on and on with this stuff. And this is why I say nobody is actually looking up this stuff. A lot of people aren't actually dealing with sea moss. People will tell you sea moss gets its nutrients from the rocks. That's not true. You can look this up. You can look up red algae. That's what sea moss is. Sea moss is red algae. You can look up what a holdfast is. That's what it uses to attach itself to rocks and other things. It's not a typical root system like regular plants. So it doesn't pull nutrients through that root system. The sea moss gets its nutrients from the water. You can look this stuff up. This is the natural biology. This isn't my opinion. This isn't feelings. This is facts. This is actual biology of how this stuff behaves, how it grows. So this is what I mean. There's all this information out there. And because people have heard it so much, they just think it's real. They say, okay, well, nobody has disputed it, but nobody looks this stuff up for themselves. So this is why I keep saying we have to do the actual research, because we're going around saying all these things and it's not true. And it creates so much confusion. So we're like, okay, if your sea moss doesn't look like this, then it's not real. If it has salt, it's fake. All this stuff is just making people confused that don't know anything about sea moss. And then they just say, okay, I don't know what's real. I keep hearing everything's fake. Now they just stay away from it. But meanwhile, they're putting all these other chemicals and stuff and all types of weird stuff in their body and they don't question it. But we create all this hysteria and misinformation around sea moss. Now we're afraid. Now we don't want to use it. This is the problem. We have to start actually looking into these things and understanding what's real and what's not. But if you don't even know what to look for, then you don't even know where to start. This is why I keep telling people, look up the different kinds of sea moss. Understand that there's different species. Understand the different places and how they grow. Understand the biology. Understand how they reproduce. Understand how they get their nutrients. Understand what a holdfast is. All these different things. Understand the drying process of sea moss. How to preserve the color of the sea mosses, they dry the sea moss in the shade. The gold sea moss gets naturally sun bleached. So during that process, they're cleaning it better. They're removing the salt. It's a whole other process, but people don't know these things. So even when you see some people will tell you, well, this sea moss, if it's thick, and it's not real if it's thin. First of all, again, there's different species of sea moss, so they have different characteristics. But then depending on how it grows, depending on where it grows, depending even sometimes how it's dried out, it affects the thickness of the sea moss. So there's all these other variables. Just like anything else that grows naturally in the wild, Everything's not going to be 100% uniform. But again, we don't have this perspective. So anything that doesn't look like what we're used to, we label it as fake, it's unnatural, get rid of it. This person's the best. This one's garbage. We have to start educating ourselves. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not discrediting anybody you got your information from. But the reason why I keep asking people when they say stuff, who did you get your information from? Because once you start learning these things for yourself, then you have to go back and question these people and say, well, why didn't you know this? Why were you telling us this when you clearly didn't do the research? Now, it doesn't mean they haven't done the research and other things and they're not actually knowledgeable and truthful, but I know for a fact that not many people is doing research or have done research on sea moss. So that's all I'm saying. Salute.